Hey everyone, it's Alex, and welcome to this Marvel Snap guide where I'm going to talk to you about 10 absolutely broken early Pool 3 decks. In this guide, I'm going to show you decks that involve one Pool 3 card that then you can build around as you start to unlock additional cards in your Pool 3 collection. The deck list will have one Pool 3 card and the rest will be Pool 1 and 2 cards, so you can take them out and include additional cards as you unlock them. With that being said, if you like the series, hit the like button. You know it's all that YouTube cares about, and let's talk about deck number 1, which is Sera. Sera was by far the most commonly requested early Pool 3 decklist card that was requested of me by my community. As a card that has an ongoing ability where cards in your hand cost 1 less to a minimum of 1, it's obviously damn good. Arguably the best card in the game. And so naturally one of the major progressions that I came up with here was that Sera would be really good in a strong guy variation of a deck. So strong guy decks were very common in Pool 1. In fact, one of the absolute best decks for ranking up. And so strong guy, this variant of a deck allowed you to add a little more value into the deck list while also running Sera on turn 5. Traditionally, you use turn 5 as basically the opportunity to dump your hand with Blade, but now with Sera, provided you have Sera on turn 5, you play it, and then what happens is your Chavez is going to be a 5 cost. That means that you can play Chavez in addition to any of these 1s or any of the 2s as well to get additional value. Moreover, if you're in a situation where you have 3 cards in your hand, you have to hold Blade. The reason for this is because you can play Chavez and Blade in the same turn, ensuring that you're able to discard whatever remains in your hand to make sure that Strong Guy gets the +6. This deck ultimately is a really fascinating deck, and Sera is one of the best cards in the game, so if you pulled it early, you're off to a great start. Without question, the second most requested deck that I've been asked to make is a deck featuring Aero. Aero is one of those really interesting cards that actually got buffed quite a bit. It used to be a 5/7, and what happened was, just before the release of the game, a lot of the 5 drops got buffed up by additional power, Aero being one of them. So this card that has an on-reveal that move all enemy cards played on this turn to a given location is really strong. Also, can be played on turn 6. So let's talk about the deck list. So this is an early Pool 3 Aero deck list, and basically the idea here is to basically use Aero as a form of control. Basically, you have a control list that involves Iceman, amazing card, needs no introduction. Korg, excellent, annoying card, needs no introduction. Nightcrawler and Angela, just pure value cards, right? We've talked about that combo so many damn times. Then you have the Armor, which is a great tech card against Destroy, which is very common in early Pool 3, but also protects your 1-drops, which is very valuable. Lizard's key here, because Lizard's a 2/5, and with Aero, it's going to be harder for them to stack that lane, because you're going to be constantly kind of annoying them with your ability to pull. Moreover, you also have the Storm control, which is fantastic, and if you play Lizard into the Storm location, ultimately, it's very hard for them to zoo into it. You ideally play Lizard first, and then the Storm, and then you follow up with the Jessica Jones. Now, what the major consideration you want to do is you want to set up one lane for Ironheart, Aero, and then to be followed up by Odin. This is amazing because basically what you do is you really disrupt the opponent's ability to play. Because what happens is you drop the Ironheart, you throw the value on the board, then you play your Jessica Jones, whatever you want to do. And then what you do in the lane where you played Ironheart, you play Aero, you pull the card over. And then they're like, great, I didn't get to do what I wanted to. And then you drop Odin on top of the Aero and the Ironheart, you pull another card over, or the cards that they play on the next turn, on turn 6, and guess what? You basically end up with a situation where you're getting a lot of value with the Ironheart and the Aero and the Odin with a backup play of Chavez. This is a really interesting deck list. I do think that Aero is much better suited in Pool 3 when you get like Magneto and other major cards. I actually featured Aero in this Disruption movement deck in my recent Decks of the Week video, but honestly, if you pulled it early, it's an amazing card and you're gonna have a ton of fun with it. And the next deck list we gotta talk about is one featuring Human Torch. When Human Torch moves, you double its power. Much like Deadpool, that when Deadpool is destroyed, its power doubles. But Human Torch just gotta move. And the good news is that the Pool 2 move lists were actually pretty damn good. So basically the way it works here is you have your Human Torch, and then you have cards that really interact well with him. First of all, Cloak, a fantastic follow-up to playing Human Torch on 1. Moreover, if you have Iron Fist, you play Human Torch on 2, Iron Fist will allow it to move and double up. You have the Doctor Strange that can pull it and move it along, but usually you have to play Doctor Strange a little later once it's had a few movements as it was. Hulkbuster's incredible, because when you play Hulkbuster on top of the Human Torch, the value applied to it via the Hulkbuster is multiplied when the torch moves. Fantastic. You have a tech card and Enchantress. Now, with Jessica Jones and Enchantress, I think the Enchantress is valuable as a tech card, but Jessica Jones, if you have Morales, is probably better that you put Morales in, but again, you know, this could be technically a Pool 3 card, or if you bought the season pass, it's not, you know, so Morales is a choice. Long story short, you got the Heimdall. fantastic card, and the Chavez for the control. But ultimately, the Human Torch deck is very similar to the Pool 2 move deck as it is. We know that they're good, and Human Torch adds a very interesting element to this deck list. I've talked about Daredevil before, and if you've unlocked him, he's absolutely amazing. And this deck is truly remarkable because basically you're going to take advantage of that turn 5, where you get to see their plays before you do, and here it is. This is a great deck list. Now, one thing that's worth noting is a lot of people love Hobgoblin, and I get it. I'm like, hey, Alex, why'd you cut Hobgoblin out? You know what, you can play Hobgoblin if you want. The problem is that as you start playing Hobgoblin, you'll start to notice that Destroy decks are so popular in the meta right now, and Destroyer's just going to wipe the Hobgoblin off the board and delete your turn 5. So Hobgoblin's a little risky unless you played into the armored lane, but that's a whole other conversation. Basically, the way it works is this is a much more consistent build, and I really like it because basically you are doing a couple things that are interesting. First of all, you are running Professor X, which is an absolutely amazing combination with Daredevil because it allows you to determine if you can lock and win a lane as it is. You have Gamora, who's incredible as well, because Gamora gets that +5 power, which you can do very predictively with Daredevil. Why wouldn't you? You got the Chavez, which again is a good turn 6 play, while also increasing the draw chances of your other cards. This list is a bit more of a zoo list, in fact, when you feature cards like Angela, Nightcrawler, and Wolfsbane, as when Wolfsbane goes down, she gets +2 power for every card in the existing lane. Mr. Fantastic gives you additional reach. Shang-Chi is a great counter card for the Devil Dinosaurs and the other stuff you're going to be seeing quite often in your early Pool 3 days. And I like White Queen in this list. That's not White Queen. This is White Queen. I like White Queen in this list. Let me explain why. First of all, it's a 4/6 extreme tempo play, but also you'll notice we're not running an actual 6 cost outside of Chavez. And one of the things you can do here is you can get additional information about the opponent's hand after you lock down the lane with Professor X. This is key because now you've locked down one lane where you've traded effectively with Gamora and hopefully you've won that location. And then the White Queen lets you understand on turn 6 whether or not Chavez is enough, because then you have hopefully their turn 6 combo play in your hand, which you can play yourself, or you can determine whether or not you need to retreat or if you win. So I do think that White Queen in these very predictive style decks can be super valuable because Daredevil helps you lock down a lane and White Queen gives you information as to whether or not you're more likely to win or not. Ghost Rider is a really interesting card, and one of the more challenging ones to pilot if you unlocked him first. Now, there are deck lists that utilize Ghost Rider in discard mechanics, but you have to be very aware of how this works because do you run Ghost Rider in conjunction with something like Apocalypse? There's a little bit of counter synergy, but discard as a whole is incredibly inconsistent. So Apocalypse gives you a little bit of added consistency. Do you run it in Hela decks? But then if you're relying on Ghost Rider to pull Hela out, that's probably not the best plan either. So what is the overall best plan for an early Pool 3 Ghost Rider deck? And I came to the determination of getting a lot of value, a lot of big cards, and Jubilee. I think that Jubilee is interesting here because yes, as a Pool 2 card, a 4/1 drop that targets Chavez, Hulk, Odin, Vision, and others is pretty damn solid. The nice thing about it too is if in the event it gets discarded, when you pull it back with Ghost Rider, it's going to come in and it's going to pull something. Pretty damn cool. Moreover, Okoye provides a lot of value for utilizing Jubilee and Ghost Rider, whereas the Vision I think is a really valuable target for both of these cards. Morbius is a very interesting play because you're going to have him unlocked in Pool 2, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to gain some value off of the discards, although it's likely he's only going to get to a maximum of 2/4 or 2/6. Angela just a value play with the Okoye as well. Lady Sif is a very reliable discard. However, because we don't have Death in this list, which is a 9 cost, it's a toss-up between discarding Hulk, Odin, or Apocalypse. Apocalypse not necessarily the most value of the ones. However, Swordmaster is a very strong tempo play at a 3/6. It's going to be a random discard. So ultimately, this list is a really interesting list because it's like half Jubilee, half Ghost Rider, half discard. It's a bit of a hybrid list, one that you can experiment with. But honestly, if I'm trying to grind rank, I don't think this is the one. It is one of the better lists for Ghost Rider early Pool 3, but Ghost Rider as a whole, I think needs a little more Pool 3 cards to really be competitive. Make no mistake about it, I love a good Dracula list, and Dracula is an amazing discard card. We just finished talking about Ghost Rider, and at the end of it I said, I don't think Ghost Rider is the one you want for ranking cubes right now in early Pool 3. The opposite is for Dracula. I think this list is amazing. So this list is really cool because the major component of this list that I think a lot of people kind of sleep on is that Dracula actually procs an additional discard, okay? That's important because when you have Apocalypse in your hand and you hit it, not only does the Apocalypse basically get the additional value, the +4 from the from the Dracula, but it also means that you don't actually have to commit the 6 mana to playing the Apocalypse while still getting its value on the board. That's what makes Dracula so strong. That allows you to play Chavez on turn 6. Beautiful. Why wouldn't you do that, right? You also have a lot of discard mechanics, of course, here. Ideally, you're hitting your Apocalypse, but also you have the Swarm as a backup. Swarm's a great card that allows you to basically get it discarded and get free value out of its drop. That allows you to zoo in the Swarm into the Angelus, which can be an extremely high value play in and of itself. Moreover, Swarms are fantastic because on turn 6, you can basically play Chavez and all your Swarms at 1 and fill all the lanes. Really good in the current meta. Morbius is fantastic because Morbius goes really well with the Swarms, which is great as well. A good card to include in this list if you unlock it early is Colleen. Colleen will basically most guarantee to be hit Swarm at some point in the game, and then you can multiply your Swarms when they're at 0 cost, which is absolutely phenomenal. Regardless, this deck is a really interesting early pool 3 deck for Dracula. I think it's one of the best decks for early pool 3 if you've been fortunate enough to unlock Dracula relatively early. Patriot's one of those cards, and when people unlock them, they come to my channel right away and they type into the comment section, "Hey Alex, I just got Patriot, what do I do with him?" Great question. I love it. The truth is that Patriot's kind of risky because he actually needs quite a bit of pool 3 help, specifically with Mystique, but overall the ongoing ability of cards with no abilities get +2 power is doable in pool 1 and 2 and early pool 3. Let's talk about it. This is the list I think works the absolute best. Bear in mind, this list is very susceptible to Enchantress. Be very, very, very wary of Enchantress. And if you're scared of Enchantress, you can tech in a Cosmo on top of your Patriot, but that's another conversation. But if you encounter it a lot, tech in Cosmo. Basically, the way this works is it's like a zoo list. I'm running Ant-Man. Yes, it's an ongoing card, but that's A-okay because you're going to zoo in. It's going to be a 1/4. The Squirrel Girls are fantastic because Squirrel Girl does not get the buff, but the Squirrels do. Misty Knight, absolutely incredible card in this, 1/4. You get the Mr. Sinister, whose additional card here, the clone, gets the buff, but not the Sinister itself. Shocker, which has one of the best animations in the game, gets the buff as well. Then you have the Cyclops, who pretty much sucks in every other deck except this one. Still kind of sucks, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation. You got the Thing. Look at all these guys with no abilities doing work. And then finally, you have Abomination, which is a nice big closer at a 5/11, which is pretty damn good. Now, you have a couple options here. By the way, Hulk, too. No ability. Did you realize Hulk had no ability? Of course you did. Imagine being a 6'14". Wow. Imagine you were that strong. Anyways. Regardless, we also have a couple different options as well, which I think are really valuable. So we do have an ongoing ability with Patriot. Now, we can upgrade this like a fake Mystique by using Onslaught. Onslaught's really good here because you basically get +4 across the board. Well, Onslaught's a big enough body as a 6/7. Now, the key thing is here is, let's say you don't have your Abomination, or you feel like Claw is going to give you more value. You can play Claw, and then Abomination on the, not Abomination, sorry, and Onslaught on top of the Claw, and make the ongoing power be +12 to the right location. So you get some flexibility here. I do think that this is the best variant of a Patriot list. It's actually relatively competitive in early pool 3, and the reason why it is because you have the options. You have this straight up value of Patriot with the Abominations, things and whatnot, the Hulk of course, but you also get the flexibility of the Claw and Onslaught. But again, I'm going to reiterate, if you're getting owned by a bunch of Enchantresses, take Apocalypse the hell out and put Cosmo in, and you play Cosmo on top of the ongoing cards. So you play Cosmo and then Patriot, Claw, Onslaught, whatever, because they're not on reveals, they're ongoings. So they'll be very benefited by the protection of Cosmo. If you were fortunate enough to unlock Arnim Zola relatively early in pool 3, you are blessed because this card is so much fun and it's actually relatively competitive. In fact, in early pool 3, this deck might absolutely destroy people because Arnim Zola is basically the ideal upgrade to a Devil Dinosaur deck. Now you might be thinking, Alex, oh my gosh, I played so much Devil Dinosaur. But here's the advantage in early pool 3. People are going to see this this Devil Dinosaur. They're going to be like, it's just the usual crap. Guy's going to play Devil Dinosaur. Where's his Moon Girl? What's going on? And then what you do is you hit it with the Arnim Zola, you split it up. And the best thing about it is that when you do that, if you have turn initiative, if they play Shang-Chi, you destroy the Devil Dinosaur and split it up, and they just land Shang-Chi just like dumb in the middle, like, well, I guess I'll lose. It's so funny. It's amazing. And this deck is actually very legit. You also have the Storm control, of course. White Queen, I love following up with the Storm, also buffs up the Devil Dinosaur. In this list, we get rid of the Collector. I don't think it has enough value here, but ultimately this list is so good. It's basically Devil Dinosaur, but with the Arnim Zola finisher with Devil Dinosaur. Like, it's so good, guys. You are gonna have a blast playing this deck. If you've unlocked Zola, this is the deck for you. It is so good, and like, honestly, you're gonna get cubes. It's unbelievable. If you've got Green Goblin in early pool 3, you've got an amazing card. Honestly, it's one of my favorite cards in the game, and it can go into almost any single deck. Literally, it can just go in any deck. The only disadvantage is that there's a ton of Destroy decks out there, and Destroyer itself just gets rid of it. So if you're going to play in Destroy decks, play it into armored lanes. In fact, you can even tech in armor in this deck. If you really are facing a lot of Destroy decks, you put in armor, you throw the Green Goblin onto the armor, and get them cubes. Long story short though, I do think that this is a very ideal list here. As you can see, I really love the Claw Onslaught combinations. You got the Storm Jessica Jones combo as well. Sandman Disrupt, you're in pool 3 now, fool. There's gonna be tons of people trying to play combo stuff on you like Negative and whatever, Sera like we talked about earlier. Sandman just breaks their spirit and destroys them for easy cubes. Awesome card. This is a very disrupt heavy list. You have the disruption in Iceman, Cable, Scorpion. You have the Lizard for the Storm lane. You got the Green Goblin. You got Killmonger. This is just a straight up, I'm going to annoy the crap out of whoever I'm playing against style of deck. And Green Goblin is simply the icing on the cake. If you've got Green Goblin, you've got yourself an excellent card. There are very few cards in Marvel Snap as polarizing as Maximus. You've got a 3/7, which is amazing, that has an on reveal that your opponent draws 2 cards. That's terrible. No one wants to do that, or do they? Who cares if they draw 2 cards, right? That's one way to think about it, and that is one way that this deck actually works. You've got an early pool 3 Maximus deck that has a couple different things going for it. So let's say you don't care at all and you just let him draw 2 cards. Big deal, because you got White Queen, so you can scout what cards they drew and you get to see their combo piece. Not a bad follow-up. The other thing you can do is just negate the draw. Play Cosmo first and then follow up with the Maximus. So this is cool because basically you get a 3/7 and you don't have to make your opponent draw cards. Perfect. And you got a tech card for enemy lineups. That's pretty damn good as well. But the other side to this is that, like, what if you just play Maximus on turn 6? Then the cards don't matter and you can just zoo out with everything else. That's not bad. The other side to this is if you play someone like Korg and you pop a rock in their deck and then you use Maximus and they draw the rock, who cares? They just drew the rock. They really only drew 1 card because the other one's garbage anyways, right? So there's so many different variations as to how you can handle this deck. And Maximus was kind of, I like this. I like kind of like, okay, how do I make a deck for early pool 3 with Maximus? There's some people that would say, okay, we'll make a Sandman deck. Sandman's not bad, but Sandman only truly works in conjunction with your boy, where is he, Ronin? Because then Ronin, when you unlock Ronin, like that stuffed hand the opponent has works to your advantage. But I'm assuming you don't have Ronin yet because it's early pool 3. So I'm cheating if I say build a deck with Ronin, right? So I do think that this works for Maximus. You got the Blue Marvel play that benefits all the Zoo cards. You got the Onslaught, which doubles that effect. You got the Armor to prevent the Zoo cards as well, which you've done so much in the past with the Khazars. And you also do have the White Queen, which allows you to get that Scout. So ultimately, I do think that Maximus is a pretty solid choice. With that being said, I got another video for you down below. Be sure to check it out if you want to see more lists and more guides for Marvel Snap. Thanks for watching, guys. Smash that like button and we'll see you in that next Marvel Snap video.